of all of our hearts be delightful to you, O Holy One. Amen. I was just sitting back there, forgetting that I actually had to preach. I was enjoying the singing and the music. It's wonderful, thank you. So when's the last time that you attempted to accomplish something that your mind told you was impossible? This practice should be part of a basic training program for all Christians. Doesn't matter if this thing is huge or if it's small. It just needs to be outside the range of what you imagined was possible for you. Most of us have a tendency to profoundly underestimate what we're capable of. I was reading one of my favorite magazines this past week, What is Enlightenment? I came across a story of a fellow who spends most of his life either setting new records in the world, Guinness World Book of Records, or breaking old ones. In the last, I think, what did I read? Since 1979, this fellow, whose name is Ashrita Furman, has broken 71 of these records. Among his achievements, 131,000 jumps on a pogo stick. With only 5 minutes of rest per hour. He rode 405 consecutive miles on a bike around Central Park with only 10 days of training. He did 27,000 jumping jacks, and when he started, he could only do 50. I love this one. He did somersaults for 12 and a half miles. They only allowed him to stop to throw up. That's a true story. When he describes why he does it, he says it's part of his spiritual practice. He was a student of Sri Chinmoy, who himself played over 100 musical instruments, once painted 16,000 paintings in 24 hours, wrote 1,300 books, and lifted, according to eyewitnesses, 7,000 pounds. Sri Chinmoy teaches that we are unlimited beings, limited mostly by our own tendency to underestimate our capacity. And when this fellow, Ashrita Furman, performs his tasks, he talks about, depending on the grace of God, he's actually meditating throughout these experiences. So it's not just to prove his physical prowess, it's a spiritual practice of getting in touch with this unlimited potential within him. Sam Wyatt, I don't know if Sam's here this morning. Are you here, Sam? But Sam, he comes to Canadian Memorial, and he teaches meditation here at the Center for Peace. And he was a student of Sri Chinmoy. And this past summer, Sam climbed a mountain, and he's making plans now to climb Mount Everest. Interesting. So, what I'm suggesting is that we have it as a regular part of our Sunday morning ritual to have a hotbed of coals here and practice walking over them. Seriously though, when's the last time we really challenged ourselves to step out beyond our perceived limits? And it's not just physical tests that I'm talking about. If somebody had told me 3.5 years ago that I was going to write 3 books and then start to get invitations to speak and do interviews at various places and lead workshops around the themes of these books, I seriously would have laughed out loud. I think I've shared with you before, but my dream in high school was to drive one of those Zambonis around the hockey rink to clean the ice. It's a pretty good career. I had a solid pension working for the city of Winnipeg. So I'm not sure how it is we get in touch with this untapped potential. But I have a couple of hunches, and I'd like to share those hunches with you this morning. For one thing, we have God on our side. it all starts with a simple yes. Woodlake Books came up to me 3.5 years ago and said, "You want to write a book?" And I said, "Sure." But I didn't know what I was getting into. I just said yes. I didn't know what I was even going to write about. The point is, our life is continually issuing challenges to us. These never stop. These are the life conditions that keep coming to us that we're asked to step out into and meet those challenges. That's how we evolve. We're called to step out, just like Peter was called to step out of the boat. He sees Jesus walking on water towards him, and somehow he gets this crazy idea that, well, if Jesus can do it, maybe I can do it. Tell me to come to you, Jesus, and I'll do it. So Jesus says, knock yourself out, Peter. Peter gets this idea that he can do it. Jesus acts as a source of allurement to him. He lights up that part of Peter that says, maybe I can do this. Why not? And so we're not going to concern ourselves this morning, if it's okay with you, about whether this story is historically true. It's true whether it happened or not, because it's about those moments in every person's life when we're called to take the next frightening step in the direction of our evolving life story. So we're right in the midst of the Olympics now. They've begun. I've managed to catch a few of the events so far. And the Olympics are an extreme example, aren't they, of human beings who organize their lives around being able to reach the peak of their potential right at the Olympic event. Every one of them, of these athletes, needs to get up every morning for the last 3 or 4 years or 8 years that they've been training and recommit themselves to stepping out beyond their limits so that they can shave 1 more tenth of a second off their time. Kyle Schofelt is a Canadian gymnast who you probably know by now broke both of his knees doing a tumbling routine last year. Some didn't think he'd walk. Certainly they didn't think he'd walk normally again. I heard an interview with him about that very moment when he felt both of his legs go. And even then, he began to tell himself that he was going to make a comeback. This was a year ago that he was going to perform in the Olympics. And so he